Disney's Haunted Mansion is an inspiration for many haunters, and The Nightmare Before Christmas is an annual watching tradition. So in 2001, when Jack Skellington took over the Haunted Mansion, it was glorious. From the Haunted Attraction Network, I'm Philip, and today we'll hear the story behind this holiday takeover. Stay with us. Support for this episode comes from Gantom Lighting and Controls. Gantom illuminates attractions worldwide with the world's smallest intelligent spotlights. From Netherworld to Dark Hour, Area 15, and even Hagrid's motorbike, Gantom goes where other fixtures can't. See what you're missing with a free demo. Sign up at gantom.com/demo. That's gantom.com/demo. Okay, back to the show. Gardner Holt was tapped by Disney to bring Jack Skellington's nightmare to life, and although he had a background in haunting, the path was anything but predictable. I'm going to play you excerpts from a panel recording at this year's Seasons Screaming event in Pasadena. In it, you'll hear Gardner Holt live on stage recounting the process behind the attraction layover. And in case you're wondering, Seasons Screamings will return to Pasadena for year 2 this coming December.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Seasons Screamings. In 2001, an elaborate overlay came to Disneyland's Haunted Mansion based on Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas, leaving guests asking, "What's this?" 20 years later, Haunted Mansion Holiday has become a fan favorite and has been such a success, it is replicated at Tokyo Disneyland each year as well. Please welcome one of the creative designers that helped bring Haunted Mansion Holiday to life, themed entertainment industry legend, Gardner Holt.
Thank you. So, it is true that we do a lot of fun things, and I have now a little slideshow, and I'm going to show you some of the very beginnings of GHP. If you see some pictures of me in here when I was a child or a teenager, I'm sure you'll be impressed with how well preserved I am, and I look almost the same as I did then. So this is a little slideshow about the Haunted Mansion Holiday, which was a show we created 20 years ago now. I was just in the mansion yesterday, and on the cake, there's a 20 in there, and that's kind of homage to 20 years. I mean, it really seems like it was only yesterday. So this little show here is some slides that start out. We won't spend much time on this particular one. This just tells a little bit about who we are and what we've done, but we've already gone over that. So some of the more recent things that we've done. Any of you see Pets in Hollywood? No, that's a cool. There's a little kitty right there. So this all started basically when I was a kid, probably 12 years old. I kind of grew up on like a farm with horses, and my parents wanted me to be a horseman and a veterinarian. And until I saw the Osmonds tour this place called the Haunted Mansion on TV on one afternoon, and I flipped out because I loved the movie monsters. I loved the Munsters, and I wanted their house. And so I built little haunted houses in the backyard. And I heard about the Haunted Mansion. I'd never been there. And I asked my parents, "Can you take me to this Disneyland to see the Haunted Mansion?" And so they did. That was a fatal mistake that they made. Fatal mistake. I at that point had been on a horse since 2 days after I was born until I was about 10 years old. And I put horses behind me and I said, "I want to build theme park rides." I still to this day remember leaning over the back seat of the car saying, "I want to build the Haunted Mansion when I grow up." And just like it was yesterday. So I started experimenting early on with theme park rides in the backyard. I wanted to build the Pirates of the Caribbean. So this, actually my parents bought me the record, the Haunted Mansion record, and I would play it over and over and over again. This is one of my early attempts at a pirate ride thing. So this was, that's me in the boat. and my friend's getting ready to launch me down the ramp into a muddy pit. And that grew to a point to where I nearly broke a child's legs in the boat, and my parents stopped that. So I said, well, what can I do that isn't endangering the lives of the children in the neighborhood? And they said, well, my dad will help you. Dad will help you build a little shack. So I designed, I'm splashing down, so this was my first haunted house. It was about the size of a bathroom, and it had a couple of rooms. That was my drawing of it. My dad helped me build this little shack out in the backyard, and this is the floor plan. You know, it has the important dead man, and then there's a guillotine and a skull, I think, something like that. Newspaper came out, saw it. Everything went crazy. 400 people showed up, and it started raining. And later on, one of the malls in San Bernardino called me and said, you did a cool haunted house we saw in the paper. Could you do one for the mall? And I said, well, sure I can. I can do anything. So this was in the paper. This was in my garage where I was trying to sculpt masks and creatures and things. And experimenting with animation. So in order to build my first haunted house, I with my parents, I told them I needed to do something to work for the mall. So this, I believe I'm 16 in this picture. We bought for $400 a burned out construction trailer that had burned, and I replaced it with all the walls and things, and I made a haunted house. My mom actually had to drive me to work every day at the haunted house because I didn't have a license yet. But this was the haunted house. There's the proud owner, and as you can see, it looked really good. Just like that. So that's my haunted house, Gardner Holt's Haunted House of Mystery, and it was a big hit at the mall. Look at that queue. Isn't that amazing? So it was like that all the time. So I had people going through there. So other malls started to see that and say, well, can you build us one? So sure, I did that. And that was the beginning of Gardner Holt Productions. And did a lot of mall stuff for years in the late 70s, early 80s. And then I wanted more than anything, that's the Mall of Orange Haunted House there, me as a pirate. And I wanted more than anything there's some of the artwork of the organist, Ludwig the organist, and him jumping out of his seat. There's the actual piece itself, and then he'd spin around and fly across the room at you. And that was some of my early animation. That was one of my first animated figures I ever built that were pneumatic. And so I really wanted to get into animatronics, which was my dream. So that's myself in the family room with my first Uncle Sam figure that I built, which is the first human figure I built. I was going to school that morning. I was in a sophomore in high school. I didn't have any money to get metal to make the legs and the arms. So those are pieces of my dad's fences that I sawed off with a hacksaw that were in the backyard around the horses. And so I cut up pieces unbeknownst to them and made metal parts. And so I built an Uncle Sam and learned how to do some electronic controls for it. And that was Uncle Sam coming together. And then this was him debuting in a show in the mall in a little stage I built out of plywood. And that was one of the mall shows. It got in National Geographic World magazine and a couple other magazines, Current Science, and then things started taking off. Well, one thing led to another. I got a tape of it to, there's the second Uncle Sam there, built a year later, and then it was a little more sophisticated. And that was a piece of my office in the garage that I put together. Started selling hands. Everybody has them now, but back in those days, nobody had them, and I was one of the first that started selling hands chopped off hands all over the world, and which was kind of fun. Kept the business going. I don't know how that girlfriend talked me into that perm, but that sucks. But anyhow, so I sent my picture of my film of Uncle Sam to Disney. They called. We ended up developing a relationship, and one thing led to another. I started doing things for them, and one of the first things, I started working on parade floats. I started working on store displays, and then an idea came up for the Haunted Mansion Holiday, which was surreal to me, because this is the Haunted Mansion I dreamed of as a child, that I wanted to build the Haunted Mansion. And now somebody was coming to me saying, would you like to come in this place and tear it all apart and help us do something really different with it? Really? So they decided to choose me to do this show with them. I didn't design the show. Steve Davidson, number of brilliant Disney people. And so many of the decorations and things were done by them. I don't want to, I can't take credit for most everything that you'll see here today, if you're familiar with the show, or things that we did, I should say, my company. So this is the load-in card in the Grand Hall, in the load-in area. And so this is what it looked like going together in the shop, a bunch of scaffolding with a bunch of figures starting to appear on it. I assume most of you have seen the Haunted Mansion Holiday, I guess. So this is some of the figures in that card. Each one is separate and had its own animation, little gags and things like that. There's the Sally one. They were aluminum flats, they were painted, and they had various animation. This is what one of them looks like. I guess that's Sally there from behind. The animatronic parts of it. And then there's the doctor, and his head says Noel when it opens up. This is looking at it from the back. We can see where it's cut out there, and it opens up. And so these are, this is painting black light. So we did this show in Tokyo as well. 3 years later, Tokyo Mansion, they wanted it kind of just like the one in California. So this was in the black light shop painting these. Anybody recognize any other figures in there? I think we have the way back in the back. I think that's the Boxelbot back there from Buzz Lightyear. There's the famous shattering windows. That's getting ready to paint the frames. There is a hidden Mickey in all of them, if any of you noticed. I'm not going to tell you where it is, but you can watch for it when you're there. This is one of them for the back. This is the glass here, and putting together the stained glass. You can see the detail there. Putting together the frames. There's the singing plants. Those are my favorites on their stand. And they're the conservatory, and then also in the hallway. They're really cool. I think this is them getting ready to be painted there. So this is kind of putting them all together. Some of the mechanics, close up of the mechanics that make them swivel and everything. So there they are, and their stands. Those are really fun to make. I really like those. So we have, that's me programming in the mansion, I think, sitting at a table one night, programming stuff. There's the wreath in the hallway, and there's the wreath on the floor in the shop, I guess. There's putting all the foliage on there, and it's a pretty big wreath. Looks like it's eating someone there. There's the big Christmas tree in the Grand Hall. It has spiders and that travel up and down on little webs and things. And I'm sure it's no secret to all of you there that in the Grand Hall where the ghosts are, that it's a Pepper's Ghost effect. There are great big giant panes of glass there, and we were told in no uncertain terms that this tree is assembled. It's big giant metal limbs that are covered with material, and when we were assembling it, they're big and they're heavy and they're steel, and we were within 2 feet of panes of glass that they told us in no uncertain terms, you break this glass and it's about $1 million worth of glass, and so don't do that. And I said, okay, so we stayed really away from the glass, but it was a really neat piece, and that's one of the spiders holding the Christmas bulbs. And There's all the candles that go on the tree. There's the tree getting produced with putting all the material on the steel. And there's the scroll. You see Gardner Holt on there. It's really funny, but the person who made that, see, at the time, Gardner Holt Productions wasn't very well known, but they knew there was Gardner Holt worked on the Haunted Mansion. So I'm the only one that had my name on there twice. Everybody had their first name, and the person who printed this said they thought there was a Garner and there was a Holt. So he said, I'm going to put Garner's name and I'm going to put Holt's name too. So that was cool. I had both my names on there. So then there's Pumpkin Mountain. This was in our backyard of the shop, putting the pumpkins onto the big Pumpkin Mountain. And as you can see, it's pretty good size. Made in a couple pieces so we could haul it in there. These pictures, another surreal thing about this is these photos were taken about a week before, or about 2 weeks before 9/11 happened. And every time I see these photos, I'm like, it brings me back to that time, which is very strange. But because we loaded it in the end of September in 2001. So there it is back inside the shop where it's getting final paint and everything's getting touched up, ready to go. There's Jack, apparently without his dentures. We have Zero there off to the side of him. And that's some of the skeleton, the mechanics, inside the head, I believe. There's Oogie Boogie with his spinning wheel and bag of bugs. And he's pretty animated. He was a lot of fun to do. Pulls the lever, and then you get a prize as you go by the mirrors, which, there's the sculpt. That was in the sculpt room of Oogie, the original sculpt. That was kind of neat. And there's the big bag of bugs himself. That's building the spinning wheel. It's kind of a nice piece. And then here's the overlays that went over the existing mirrors that are in the unload area to where you can see the different prizes that you win of Oogie's spinning wheel. And I think that's some of the prizes there that we developed through inside the. It's kind of a neat shot, just getting them all ready to go ship down the park. And then, there's one of the gifts, the spooky gifts, which was a Christmas sock. And so there's about, I don't know how many years later, I don't know if it was probably more than 10 years later, we were asked to put in Sally across from Jack. That'd always been intended, but it just got delayed, and so that's her. We did the gravestone, and we did Sally there, and she blinks her eyes, and her leg flips up in the back. She kind of pines for Jack. She's staring at Jack, wishing that she was with him. And so there's the Tokyo house, and a lot of the stuff on the outside there were things that we did, and I think that's the end of the slideshow. So I'm not checking anything here other than my time. I'm not looking at, so I got 3:38, so I'm supposed to go till 4 o'clock. So I got about 20 minutes here, so I'm going to talk just a little bit more about Mansion. It was, as I say, very surreal, very amazing thing to have been involved in. In those days, we just the whole team went in there, spent a month in there, in the attic, the real attic, in the bowels of the basements, everything. We got to see everything, do everything, anywhere we wanted, just all night, overnight. It's just amazing. I still can't tell you how strange that was as a child, dreaming of that place and then getting to have the run of it in a sense, but they were pleasure to work with. Disney's a great company, and we were proud and pleased to be able to do these things for them. Great team, great creative team. They developed all this stuff. They did all the artwork and that for it. We just basically built what they tell us to build. That's how a lot of things that we do. People say to us all the time, do you come up with all this stuff? And in some cases we do. We have a creative department. People come to us and say, we want a dark ride. Okay, what do you want? Well, we want a themed dark ride like Pirates. Okay, after that, what do you want? We don't know. You tell us. So that's cool. That's fun to go do that. Cookie cutter stuff is fun too. It's nice to have a continuous source of income like Chuck E. Cheese. Built 32 Chuck E. Cheeses every 3 months or 4 months for 20 years. I have Chucky standing in my shop, and when people come in, I say, pay homage to this figure. He bought this building. So Chucky has an honorary spot in my shop. It's fun to have things that are cookie cutter. And then it's also nice to have companies come to you and throw down a stack of blueprints this thick and say, everything is here. You do exactly what we want you to do here, down to the color of the nuts and bolts, And we say, okay, this is how much that'll cost, and we'll just go do it. And so it is, the diversity of that is really great. I've had a lot of, I get that a lot with private customers. I have some customers out in Malibu and LA. There's one fellow that has about $12 or $13 million worth of animation in his basement. He just likes animatronics, and he just keeps buying toys from us, And a lot of times, house in Malibu out there, one of them, they didn't know what they wanted. They said, I want stuff that scares people in my house. And I said, well, what do you want? And he says, I don't know. I said, what's your budget? He says, I don't care. And I said, well, so I started to think, what would I want in my house? If I had a house and an unlimited budget. So I said, well, you need a wolf that attacks people at the front door. They ring the doorbell, the wall rattles and bulges, flies open, and the wolf flies out and attacks people, and Shane's pulling back, and he's drilling snot, and he's spitting on you. And he said, okay, I'll take it. And I said, well, you need a creature that jumps out of the planter and uproots a palm tree and then flies up and spits on people right by the pool and knocks everybody into the pool. And I said, okay, I'll take that. And we have an alien, and so it goes on and on and on. And years ago, we did Michael Jackson's house, a place in San Ynez. They called it Neverland, and he wanted, Indians, and pirates, and birds, and monsters. And so we did. We do a lot of things for private individuals, dignidai, people like that. We have do a lot retail, themed retail. Don't do haunted houses anymore. I don't really. We kind of veered away from anything that had to do with liability with people. It touches people, and we stopped scaring people to the point where they fall into a pool and things like that. I stood there watching the gentleman do this to people, and I thought, we're going to get sued and lose our lives. But it's a lot of fun. And in any case, we do things for the military. So you saw some things in there at Camp Pendleton that the soldiers get trained, and they run through, and they run into terrorists, and the terrorists can pull knives on them, and the terrorists can get shot, and they fall down on their backs, and they die, and they pop back up and come alive again, and they throw grenades at you, and they can shoot at you, and you can shoot at them, and it's crazy, but it trains soldiers, which is important. You send these kids overseas, and they don't know what they're going to need help with the training. So a lot of weird things like that. But all in all, it's great to do things that entertain, educate, inform, make people happy. But it is a dream come true. I've lived a dream come true. Never spent a single day in college. I tested out of high school when I was in my junior year. Never even went to my senior year. So anybody out there that thinks that they have to spend half their life in college to get anywhere, I would say, love what you do, passion, work on it day and night, live the dream, never give up, keep going. I ran into obstacles that, people would just stop. Quick story, and then I'll take questions. So, first figure I built, Uncle Sam, I needed eyes. I tried over and over and over to make eyes, painting wooden balls. Couldn't work. Didn't work. Got worse and worse and worse. And I thought, okay, I'll just find the people that make eyes for people. So I looked in the phone book, ocularist, Don Kluge, San Bernardino ocularist. Called him up. I said, I need some eyes for my figure. How much are they? And he says, we talked a little bit. He said, they're about $1,500 a piece. It's about $3,000 for a pair. And I'm like, well, that's 10 times the budget of my entire project. I cannot do that. And he says, well, I'll tell you what. He says, I won't sell them to you, but come on down here on weekends and talk to me. And he says, maybe I can teach you to make them. So I went down there. I spent a whole year riding my bike to his shop while he was building things. And I learned how to make ocular quality eyes. In fact, I used to wear a little coat and I would help him fit patients with them. And so that was an obstacle. I didn't solve it overnight. It took a year or more to solve it, but I'm better for it now. It gets you to the final goal, whatever it takes, no matter how long it takes to get over that obstacle. So that's kind of been the story of my life. It's just persevering through pitfalls, of which I've had 1,000 of them. I'm doing a book. We're gonna have a book soon. Maybe you'll all hopefully be able to read some of the great stories that I've been through. But I'm no smarter than anybody else. I'm no more money than anybody else. I just love what I do and want to keep doing it as long as, good Lord lets me do it. So that's it for me, I guess. So thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you all. Have a good day. Enjoy the
Today's episode was produced and edited by me, Philip Hernandez, with post-production by David Swope. I recorded this episode on Saturday, December 18th, 2021 at Seasons Screaming in Pasadena. Seasons Screamings will rise again in Pasadena this coming December. Support for this episode comes from Gantom Lighting and Controls. See what you're missing with a free demo. Sign up at gantom.com/demo. We release a free weekly industry newsletter. Sign up on our website or at the link in our show notes. The Haunted Attraction Network team includes Daryl Plunkey, Emily Louise Rua, Megan Spells, Gavin Burns, and Maximus Bryant. Our partner stations include A Scott in the Dark, Scare Track, The Scare Factor, and Haunt Topic Radio. Finally, please rate and subscribe to our show wherever you're listening. And until next time, Haunters, stay scary.
This is a Haunted Attraction Network production.